Deep in the heart of Western Australia, where golden fields stretch as far as the eye can see, a network of iron rails weaves through the land, carrying a legacy of agriculture, industry, and resilience. This is the Australian Wheatbelt Railway, the lifeline of the nation's grain industry. But beyond its well-known role, there are fascinating, lesser-known stories that make this railway truly remarkable. History and purpose. The Wheatbelt Railway wasn't built just for convenience, it was a necessity. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, wheat farming was booming across Western Australia. However, the biggest challenge wasn't growing the grain, it was getting it to market. Early farmers relied on horse-drawn carts and rough bush tracks, often losing much of their crop before it could be sold. That's when the railway changed everything. Starting in the 1890s, the Western Australian government built an extensive narrow-gauge railway network, stretching deep into rural farming communities. This transformed the Wheatbelt into one of the world's most productive grain regions. At its peak, the network extended over 7,000 kilometers, connecting tiny outback towns to global trade routes. But here's something you might not know. Many of these lines were built under the Railway Guarantee Act, which forced local councils to take on financial risk in case the railway didn't turn a profit. Unique operations. Unlike many railway systems, the Wheatbelt Railway operates almost entirely for one purpose: grain transport. Passenger trains vanished from many of these lines decades ago. Today, massive CBH Group grain trains haul thousands of tons of wheat to ports like Geraldton, Kwinana, and Albany. But did you know that these trains are among the longest and heaviest freight trains in Australia, sometimes stretching over 1.8 kilometers long? To keep operations running smoothly, the entire network now uses a GPS tracking system that allows trains to be remotely monitored, ensuring efficiency. And here's a little-known fact: one of the world's first trials of driverless freight trains in agricultural transport happened right here on this network. While the Pilbara iron ore trains are famous for being automated, trials for self-driving grain trains were quietly tested on Wheatbelt lines, abandoned lines and lost stations. Not all parts of the Wheatbelt Railway survived the test of time. Many lines have been abandoned or removed, victims of economic shifts and changing transport policies. Some ghost towns along the railway tell eerie stories of once thriving settlements, now reduced to silent ruins. A perfect example? The old Dowran to Wildcatcham line, where stations now stand as crumbling relics of a past era. At its height, hundreds of small railway stations dotted the Wheatbelt, but now only a fraction remain in operation. Some tracks were literally pulled up and repurposed, while others became heritage railways. In fact, some old Wheatbelt locomotives have found new life in tourist railways and museums. Modern challenges and future. Despite its importance, the future of the Wheatbelt Railway is uncertain. In recent years, many rail lines have been threatened with closure due to high maintenance costs and competition from road transport. Some grain growers now rely on trucks, which not only increases costs but also puts more pressure on rural roads. Farmers and rail advocates continue to fight for rail funding, arguing that without it, Western Australia's entire wheat export industry could suffer. However, there are signs of hope. The Western Australian government and industry partners are investing in railway upgrades, looking at more efficient locomotives and improved grain loading technology. There's even talk of reviving some abandoned tracks if economic conditions improve. Could we see a new golden era for the Wheatbelt Railway? time will tell. Secret World War II role. During World War II, some Wheatbelt Railway lines played a crucial but lesser-known role in military logistics. The railway transported troops, munitions, and food supplies to strategic locations across Western Australia, particularly as fears of a Japanese invasion grew. Some sidings and storage facilities were even built in secret, away from public view, to store emergency grain reserves in case of disruption. One of the last narrow-gauge freight networks in Australia. While most of Australia's railways have converted to standard gauge, much of the Wheatbelt Railway still operates on narrow-gauge, 1,067mm, tracks. This is a rare exception, making it one of the few remaining large-scale narrow-gauge freight rail networks in Australia. This means locomotives and wagons used here can't easily transfer onto the standard gauge network, adding unique logistical challenges. The steel camel experiment in the early 20th century, before the railway reached all farming areas, some regions relied on an unusual solution: camel-drawn rail wagons. These were called steel camels, a strange hybrid where real camels pulled carts along rudimentary rail tracks before steam locomotives took over. The experiment was short-lived, but for a brief period, the Wheatbelt had an animal-powered rail service. Hidden underground grain silos. While most people recognize the massive grain silos at railway sidings, few know that some locations experimented with underground grain storage. Certain regions, particularly those prone to bushfires, built subterranean grain silos that could keep wheat cool and pest-free while reducing fire risks. Some of these hidden silos still exist today, buried beneath the landscape. A railway town that moved. The small town of Genakubine, once an important railway hub, was physically moved in the 1900s to align with a railway route change. Buildings, including houses, a pub, and even a school, were dismantled and rebuilt closer to the tracks. This was a common practice in the Wheatbelt, where entire communities relocated to stay connected to the rail network. The longest unmanned rail yard in the Southern Hemisphere, one of the Wheatbelt Railway's major storage and sorting areas, Merredin Yard, operates as one of the largest unmanned rail yards in the Southern Hemisphere. With modern automation, trains arriving here are remotely sorted and scheduled, reducing the need for on-site staff. This is a little-known but groundbreaking advancement in Australian rail logistics. Abandoned tracks turned into roads. Many of the defunct railway lines in the Wheatbelt haven't disappeared entirely. They've been repurposed into roads and cycling trails. Some highways still follow the exact curves of old railway tracks, with some former stations converted into road rest stops. The famous Munda Biddi Trail, a long-distance cycling route, follows old railway alignments in parts of Western Australia. A train that ran on wheat waste. In an experimental trial, some locomotives on the Wheatbelt Railway tested running on biofuel derived from wheat husks and agricultural waste. While the project never became mainstream, it was an early attempt at making grain transport more sustainable. This concept is still being explored today, with hopes of using biofuels to reduce carbon emissions. A forgotten tunnel in the Wheatbelt? Unlike Eastern Australia, Western Australia isn't known for railway tunnels, but one forgotten tunnel exists. The Collie-Narrogin Railway had a small tunnel near the Wheatbelt, built for steam locomotives. Now abandoned, it remains a hidden relic of Waz Railway past, with overgrown tracks leading to its entrance. Trains that carry more than just grain. While the Wheatbelt Railway is mostly known for grain transport, it has also carried some surprising cargo over the years. In the past, it was used to transport livestock, fertilizers, wool, and even beehives. Some farmers still recall a time when sheep were herded onto rail wagons bound for Perth markets. From its origins as a game-changer for farmers to its current role as a silent workhorse of Australia's grain industry, the Wheatbelt Railway is more than just a set of tracks. It's a symbol of resilience, adaptation, and change. It carries not just wheat, but the history and future of an entire region. Next time you see a freight train rolling through Western Australia's countryside, remember, there's a century of untold stories riding those rails. If you enjoyed this journey through Australia's Wheatbelt Railway, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating railway stories from around the world. What railway would you like to explore next? Let us know in the comments.